Order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Included, I put the minutes for the 18th, and it says meeting minutes for April 25th, but I believe they're the 26th.
Get this thing. We'll look on.
The email attachment said the meeting of 26th, April 26th minutes.
I think I have 3 copies of this thing.
And it does have the subject matter of what we discussed on Thursday, so that would be one correction. I also have the current advisory committee town bylaw in there. I have the motion for the special town meeting last fall with regards to CPC taking the land for the Walter Fernal Corporation, just so we could compare it with the one that's on there now. I have the license and permits delinquent taxpayers bylaw. And I have the front page of the RFP for the owner's project manager. And I understand when we, somewhere along the line, we'll get down to the warrant, we'll talk about that. I believe Bob questioned the town administrator about that. And so, and we were given a copy of the audit and the management letter and the third quarter financial, which has budget versus actual revenue. And it should be, it has dated 4/23. I didn't remember seeing that in my email, but maybe I didn't get it. So the first thing up is the minutes of
Stated
April
what?
18th.
Yeah, right here.
I remember I had given them to before, but I printed them out again just in case. Cause I couldn't tell you where my copy, well, it's in my folder someplace.
I think I got some stuff over there I can get. All right.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting April 18th, 2018.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded for the minutes of April 18th, 2018. Does everybody minute to read them over, because they are a couple weeks back.
I just had just a comment, Mr. Chairman. Last week, we were looking at the budget, and it referenced the general stabilization is, I believe it's $300 and something thousand on the budget. Oh, no, that was free cash, excuse me.
We can go to 396.
Yep.
As I was.
Because I see a number for the stabilization in it. Yeah.
And within the minutes, if you notice, we had some questions on some things off the budget versus actual. Was the chapter 90 monies, was allocated, had a negative 12,384.28. Apparently that's a total or from either a year or a couple years, somewhere between 2013 and 16.
Well, we're not gonna get it now
Um,
then.
And they are trying to figure out if those are funds that were on according to the accountant, if they were left over, they weren't recorded. I thought we had good numbers, but apparently not. And the, under the expended column was 55,064.49. Those are monies that have been spent. They're just, the paperwork has to be done. You turn it into MassDOT and they reimburse those expenses. You have to have all the receipts and all the forms filled out in a certain way and stuff. Debt, short-term interest, was over 100%. In other words, it spent more than was allocated. The town accountant explained that this was another one of the keying errors. And supposedly, there was an annual fee that's charged, I think in the processing or in the bank for the short-term borrowing, and it should have been charged to the treasurer expense fund rather than the short-term interest. So that adds to the number of items that this committee has found while looking the budget versus actual that we have sent questions to and got answers. I'm not sure how that gets to us without, gets put out without getting corrected, but.
May I ask something?
And it also, the senior center siding was, we asked why, and it was a result that the bid came in 60,000 more than allocated, and they are in the process, I was told by the town administrator that they're trying to work that out, see how they're gonna do that. So, any other questions we had were answered as well as the standalone articles. Some of them, indeed, they haven't, or they're in the process of being spent, bid, et cetera. Is why those monies are sitting there at this time of the year untouched.
Jeffrey,
Yes.
if you have chapter 90 money and you don't get it, it doesn't come back to you, or if you're supposed to be getting money and it doesn't come back to you, and the year closes, how can you move a balance from one year to another?
We can discuss that under the budget versus actual.
Doesn't make any
But those are the
sense.
years that,
Yeah,
13,
Oh, I know,
16, when
but-
they were saying. But anyways,
if you didn't get them by now, you're not gonna
I
get
just
them.
wanted to point out that our questions were answered
Okay.
and they're included in the minutes, so.
Yep.
Does anybody have anything, changes or updates or anything on the minutes? All right, seeing none. Paul?
Abstain.
Bev?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Will?
Abstain?
Bob?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, now we have the meeting minutes, and I will just state up front that there needs to, the date needs to be changed from the 25th to the 26th. I didn't catch that till I had them all printed out, and I went back and looked, and I said, well, it is the minutes from the 26th.
I think that's a full. That might be a full kit, okay.
So they should be the 26th.
So the minutes should reflect 26, Chairman?
So-
So
So do we have a,
the meeting for the 25th will be at a later date, or?
no,
We
we did,
accepted those.
we did, accepted the minutes of the 25th last Thursday on the 26th.
Oh, okay.
I believe this is just in the format, you read, using the top format, the date just didn't get changed from the 25th to the 26th.
Thank you.
Because I went down and I checked, and It's got all the articles that we talked about last Thursday. Your comment about a poor attendance at pre-town, Bob talking about the open board, so it is the minutes from, like I said, when the heading, if you don't change the date, you put the minutes in, you forget to change the date. I didn't notice it until,
Don't worry about it.
I actually did it, so just changed the date, 25th will have to be changed to the 26th, but we can do that. So, for the minutes of the 26th, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second it.
Motion made and seconded. All right, any discussion as far as changes, corrections besides the date? Give everybody a chance to read them over.
I do have a question regarding number 4. Just to make sure everybody's memory is the same, because I don't have a recollection of this, but it just seems backwards. Where it says the annual town meeting warrant, Article 1, maybe a reduction in the amount requested for snow and ice per TA? Was it a reduction or an increase? It just, my memory says it was an increase, but why,
Oh, let's see. Article one, what does Article 1 say? Let me check. I think you're right.
So it says 65,000?
That's the deficit, so that would be an increase rather than a reduction.
Right, because I think they're up to 75.
Yeah,
Yeah.
77, yeah.
About there.
Okay.
So that would be read as an increase.
Yeah, that is to cover the amount above what was allocated at town meeting last year, which I think was 132.5.
5.
Yeah.
Don't mumble. Can't hear you.
So it's an increase, not a,
Right, on Article 1, the snow and ice, the 65,
yep,
or whatever that is to cover
The deficit,
what was spent beyond the appropriation.
right. So it's an increase, not a decrease. What we
Yep.
talked about
Yes.
last week, last Thursday, I thought I distinctly heard it was going to be might be a decrease in the amount.
If it doesn't stop snowing, it'll even get higher.
Yeah. So that's gonna be an increase to the amount requested. Okay.
That answers that.
So I will make a motion to amend the minutes from April 26, 2018.
I'll second it.
Anything else? We have the date and number 4. concerning Article 1. All right, seeing no more changes, corrections. Motion to accept the meeting minutes of April 26, 2018. Paul?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All righty. Now, on the third quarter.
I have some questions that may come up when we do the budget to actual. I mean, at this time last year, there was a question about using E911 grant money for dispatch, and it doesn't seem like that's taking place this year. But it seems like there's still a lot of money left in the E911 grant. I have to look that one up.
That was mentioned in the audit, but not really covered in detail.
I get the impression that we weren't using it right. Is that not the right impression?
It was stated that way at a selectmen's meeting, 2016, I believe.
If we didn't use it all, we were supposed to return what we didn't use?
Or we were using, or it was being used for inappropriate thing. I forget
Yeah, something
all
wasn't
of the
funny.
reasons, but I do remember, it was Bob Markle at the time, and said, there were being issues and they had to be corrected. Let's see, 68.
Wonder if it's legal to close that Bichari fund.
Yeah, it's a capital
Okay.
stabilization fund, so as long as you get 2/3 vote, you can wipe it out. See, I still don't see where E911 grant is located. Keep going.
No, I can't find it either.
Oh, E911 grant, page
Page 8.
8.
All right, general stabilization.
So as of April 23rd, only 31.57% has been expended, so there's still $135,000 in that account.
Be interesting to find out what the real story is on that. I don't want us to get in trouble down the road.
Now, if I might, I got a silly little question, and it just bothers me, and it has all along, and I don't know
What?
what's the big deal. Ambulance receipts reserved.
Page
I don't
4.
like it not being there.
Page,
Page 5, actually.
Oh, 5, sorry.
The last time we asked about it, we got a sheet, said something about on the back page. You know, it was asked about at, I think it was our first joint meeting or second joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen through the budgetary process,
And it was gonna be included.
Right, and it was gonna be included in the next one, but it wasn't included in the last one, and there was some reason given that, because it's not spendable. And that just seems
But that should
complete
still be
hooey
here.
to me. Right, I
Should be
mean,
here.
any monies that are available should be here, as far as I can see, otherwise, what's the point of,
Yeah, it's
This
money
whole
that was
sheet.
allocated.
yeah.
Where'd it go?
I mean, there's a fund, there's money coming, if there's money coming in, it should be accounted.
Right, it should be booked somewhere. But on the plus side, short-term debt on page 4 has been corrected, so 100%.
I'm just wondering if.
It's not a
if they could-
negative number.
If they can end up answering Bob's question, that's the expenditures on page 5. If you look at the revenues on the general fund, it shows ambulance
They might
revenue
list
is
it there.
235,862. This is on, this was way back in, on the revenue portions of that. You see 14. It looks like it's on 15 and 16, page 15 and 16.
My bad.
Well,
It's
see,
actually on
they're
17,
Just checking to see if you're paying
on page
attention.
17. It's right here.
There we go. Okay.
So they're listing it under revenues rather than
Yeah,
expense.
yeah, no, and I get that, I just,
That's all right, you
Yeah,
know what?
that's-
At least you're paying
Yeah,
attention.
I see that.
yeah. Yeah.
I do have a question on one of the articles here. On the snow and ice, Article 1 is, as I recall, and we talked about that last week,
How's that work?
and it was, they were talking about an amount of 65,000.
What page am I on? 3?
Now, on page 3, there's a deficit of 75,636. That's about a $10,000 difference than what's in the article.
Well, I know, that was done, and then they had those last late couple of storms.
So they'll have to take and change that motion to
Yep.
actually be more money.
And if you put more money there, you gotta take somewhere.
Well, it says it's coming out of free cash, so. During the management meeting for the audit for FY17, did they state any amount of money that should be certified as free cash? Did they state a number? No? Okay.
No, and it was you can watch it, but I was there and it was a summary, more or less, of the management letter. It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of discussion on it. So let's see, this is as of four,
On page 8, you're talking about the 911 grant. It still shows a balance, 135,408. I think we discussed this at some time back, and the question that we had for town management was about what it's supposed to be used for, and it's only supposed to be used for certain things and not necessarily to support the entire dispatcher operation.
You know, some of those grants, if you don't do the right thing, you end up paying it back. You have criteria you're supposed to follow. You can't do your own whatever. Just hope nobody decides to come back and say, gee whiz, you owe us for about 10 years of doing things wrong. Wouldn't be too good.
Yeah, there was a problem with an $85,000 grant for the playground a number of years ago.
Yep.
well, yeah, the state took the funding away, and then when it was election time, it magically came back.
And now we tore the playground down. So, yep.
Okay, not to whip a dead horse, but on that ambulance expense, just a question. Didn't we, expend $100,000 from that at the special town meeting? During this fiscal year?
We did.
But that was, see, they went to town meeting, and they estimated they were gonna have X amount of dollars by the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
And the DOR said, nope, no, you can only spend what you actually have in that fund right now. So that built-in 100 was, they estimated, was supposed to be the receipts from town meeting to the end of the fiscal year. And on the flip side, right now, they're stating they have 235,
But that Bob's got a good point. That
862.
transfer was made at a special town meeting, that they actually moved the money
In October.
in like October.
Or November, yeah.
So that should actually be hitting this budget to actual, showing $100,000 as expense.
I will go back and look at the end of the year thing. But I want, it's the 235, 862, they're planning on, I believe it's 250?
Yeah,
So, as of May 19th, so that week of town meeting, I'm gonna have to check to see if there's that amount of money in there.
Well, this is another thing with the federal E911 grant. Under revenues, this is, it says federal E911 grant as revenue, 119,604.38 under revenue. And then when you turn to page 8 of expenditure, it says the remaining amount of the E91 grant is 135,408.52.
And that's on what, 4 or 8?
8. Okay, so if you look at what was allocated, it was 197,874.96. They've expended 62 grand, there's 135,000 left. If you look under revenue, you have 119,604.38.
Approximately what page is that on revenue?
It's like the second to, there's one page, and then 2 page, and then it's right there. on the back.
Let me see.
Yeah, 119, yeah.
119, and then when you turn to
The school fund is right there. In the back. Go to the very back, and it's like the second page. Gotta love how those numbers trip you up.
well, I don't know, you know,
I don't know, gotta figure it out.
you know, I could be misunderstanding revenue, which is money that you bring in, versus an expenditure,
That would,
but
should be on,
where does that show up?
I don't know if it shows up in Cherry. I think it's separate from that. I think allocated.
Yeah, you think the
is-
revenue would end up increasing the allocated amount
Right,
under expenditures?
well, I would think that the allocated amount wouldn't exceed the revenue amount, right?
Unless there's money in there left over, that they, see, they do funny things with this. They've been doing it for a while.
See, nobody is supposed to look at these, then you wouldn't have a question,
It's,
you know?
see, grants are supposed to be, because I checked on this when they did the water. Grant, any department, I believe, any department head, I think, can apply for a grant. And when you get the grant and it's accepted, it's supposed to be put in a separate fund oversaw by the treasurer, and it can be used without any further appropriation. But I don't know how, do this E91. All I know is I know it's been, well, you know, it's been, these different
Right.
things over the years. See if it's recorded in here. Is that I invited I sent an email to the town administrators to let him know about tomorrow's pre-town to see if he comes. I did not get an answer, so, I don't know if he will be here or not. Let's see.
Yeah, because if you look up, as an example, federal fire safety grant, 6,123 under revenues. And then if you look under the expenditures, it's got $6,220.94.
What page?
Which is a totally different number.
I just think the numbers should tie out. I think that's why you have accounting, right?
I don't know.
Unless,
that's what I'm
like
trying
I
to
said,
put my head
unless
around.
there was leftover
Police vest.
grant money that wasn't spent last
3843.
year.
Now, because if you look at police vest, under revenues, they have 3843, and on the expenditures, the allocated is 3843. They balance out.
What page of police vests on? Oh, there,
Same
I
one,
found it.
same one as the
Okay.
federal 911.
Yeah. Under expenditure, under.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't-
yeah, it's the same amount of money, which is what you should expect, in my opinion.
Like I said, I think, and that's, I think that might have been one of the problems with the 911 grant was not expending it and returning it.
You look at the library, on the revenues, it's 11,490, and under the expenditures, it's 50,991 allocated, so the only thing I can end up possibly thinking is that they put that money in, but there was money left over, we're not using grant money. $4,800, cultural council is the same thing. 4,800 as revenue, and they got allocated 7975.
Thought I had a different one. Apparently I don't.
Because under school resource officer, you have federal monies of 32,000, and you have $32,140.30, so there's a difference of $140.30. Some of these make sense and some of these don't.
Yeah, when you look under revenue, it's on the same page as the E911 and police vest grant. It says state chapter 90 monies. For revenue, it's absolutely zero,
Yep.
which is why we have negative numbers. Which leads me to believe that they haven't applied for any of the chapter 90 monies that are set aside for us. But I don't think those disappear. Those I know roll over every year.
Yeah.
But you do have to put in for it.
Yeah, you have to do a project, and then you gotta do all the paperwork and all of that stuff, and you
Makes sense,
submit it,
and
and
you're
you
doing
get
that.
reimbursed.
Right, well, they've been doing the project on Royalston Road, paying for the engineering fees.
All right, March 22nd, 2018,
Okay,
the budget to actual, E911 grant. It says allocated, 157,606.04. And now we have 197,874.96. Not sure what's the difference. And we have expended 62,466.44.
So where did there's a $40,000 difference between allocated.
Yeah. 78, 74, 96.
Because the amount expended is the same, it's just the amount allocated is changed, which means the percentage changed.
8, 6, 2, 0. I hate math geniuses. Now, so, what happened? I think there was a keying error.
No, it's,
Well, was that the keying error, or is this the keying error?
I'm not sure.
Mhm.
And there is no revenue in here.
Well, no, the revenue for E911 is 119,604.
Okay.
It's not 197 or 157.
hell of a big difference.
So we've got different numbers depending on which one. I don't know where the revenue sheets are for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know.
so,
You know, you can kind of rely on your budget to actual to be up to date and accurate, especially, you know, town meeting's a couple of weeks away.
yeah.
But that, they don't want us to look at the numbers, because then we find something wrong. Well,
Well, I will shoot that question. I have a meeting at the school tomorrow at 11. Maybe I could pop in and ask the question.
What meeting is that? The reorganization one?
No.
Oh.
Meeting with the superintendent about teacher salaries and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um, So, that would be a question for
So Jeff, what was that question? You were saying the 9/11 grant expenses, this report was 62,466, and it was what on the last one?
March 22nd, 2018, it has allocated 157,606,04. And that's a 40,268.92 difference.
Between the one to
on the
April.
month.
Okay, so it's not the expenditure, it was the allocation that's changed.
Right,
It's gone up 50-something thousand.
Yeah,
right.
the expended amount is the same,
Okay.
so,
And the revenue amount is different than either of those allocateds.
so, I think I have some.
I pulled up our old 3/23/2018 expenditure ledger, and just for the hell of it, because of the comparisons, was going through recreation donation expenses. On that expenditure ledger has allocated at 4123.87. And in the present one, it's 14,123.87. It's exactly $10,000 off. It looks like a keying area, but I'm wondering which direction that is.
Okay, so what page is that on? Is that on the
It's
expenditure?
on 6 of 14 on the new one
Okay.
at the bottom,
Thanks,
and it's on 6 of 14 halfway down on the old one.
all right.
Which page is this, Bob?
6 of 14 on both the new and the old.
Okay.
$10,000 here or there adds up.
Which item on 14 you were talking about?
Recreation donation expenses.
On 14?
614. 6
Oh,
of
6.
14.
Oh, 6, okay, I'm sorry.
So, yeah, no problem, no problem.
It's a recreation donation
Yep,
expense.
This right here.
Well, people donate to
In
it.
the old one,
Yeah,
it was
no.
4,123.
So people, you have
And
to
this
have a
one
place
here.
to put the donation money.
Yeah,
14,000 is a lot
are
of
they
money.
showing revenues?
I didn't look there. Let's see. Recreation donations, 10,000. Yep. So they're showing a donation of 10,000.
Okay, so that would be the difference, you think?
That's addition.
Okay.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you, Will.
That's why I'm saying is that you go from the revenues to the expense, and the monies should be the same if there was nothing there previously. And if there was something there previously and you add more revenues, it should be an increase above what you have as for revenues.
Yep.
But there's some that just do not make sense at all.
Sure. That's what I was just going to. Okay, let's see this one, library gift expense.
Yeah, I don't know where the 40,000 increase came. It's not off the revenue because, that 119 should have been added to the 157, and then if they expended money out of it, it should show, but the expense doesn't change, just.
I always thought when it was allocated, that meant it was voted.
I can look, well, I can try to look real quick.
I don't know.
See, I'll do it at home.
Yeah,
Check on,
Troubles.
all right.
All right, well, since you've been able to straighten me out here, maybe you can do this one too.
Okay.
All right, library gift expense. 331, 616, 21.
Page?
7 of 14. Halfway down,
Okay.
Okay.
okay? It does show over here, under the library donations.
Yep.
0. Under library gift interest, it has $221.39.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that goes into that same.
That's, the library was given a couple of years back At the same time, the police station was given money of $300,000. So I would take it that they have not spent any of the money that they have been given.
And my question is, there seems to be $221.39 worth of income? Is that correct?
It could be, yes.
Okay, and the number here only goes up $210. And there doesn't seem to be any expenses listed. Now, I don't know, like I said, I wanna make sure I'm A to A here. $48.20. See, this is $54.20. $48.20.
Beats me.
See, and then it shows a state library grant, where would that go? That wouldn't go in the library gift expense, I'm going there, no?
Get a little sold. That's what it is.
Okay, maybe this is it.
Receipts. I know I got, oh, yeah.
The Boynton Library Trust income. That's 209. Okay, that's,
Trust income is $209.
right, now that works out
Yeah,
for
try
this
to go
number.
into, Veda.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
haven't
it's
tried it
the,
since we, you know.
Yeah, I gotta see if I can figure out.
so then the
Put in the new.
library gift
Gift
interest,
plus the trust income, which the $300,000 is.
See if I can track this.
right,
why
the,
this-
the 331,406
Yep.
plus that 209 gives us the number that they're reporting now.
Yep.
My only question then is the interest under here of library gift interest, or library interest, gift interest?
Yep.
Where would that go? Cause that's 221.
Yep, I see what you're saying.
You know, that's,
Here's a prime example of other communities actually have an audit committee or an audit function other than the audit company coming in to do the books. And they go over these things periodically.
That was actually a suggestion or a remark by Bob Markle. It's one thing I
Right.
did.
And
He suggested that there should be a committee, somebody choosing the audit firm and receiving the audit presentation besides the selectmen, because
it's their budget.
basically, well, it's their work. They appoint the treasurer, the collector, the accountant. It basically, it's checking in the TA.
well, typically, in other
Some
communities,
communities do, they have a
in
committee.
some other
and they-
communities, you have members of the finance committee plus some other functions that are on an ongoing audit committee that actually audits the treasurer and accountant's work on a regular basis, outside of the auditors coming in. And this is the type of things that, to me, you end up questioning whether it's this committee or somebody else that they can end up making that happen.
Well, and it's a good concept and everything, but we have a hard time getting 7 members. And the other committees, look at capital planning. You're still short.
Yep.
Am I correct?
We have 6. We have, we're one short of a full committee.
But you're
That's
still
why-
one person. There's,
That's why in some communities, the finance team or advisory is your audit function.
Well, seeing that they want to cut our legs out from under us, I don't see it happening here, but it would be a good idea. And I mean, even if it's just a number that's keyed wrong, if it gets carried along for a extended period of time, it causes all kinds of trouble.
And it's basically they can end up checking the books for this type of questionings that we've all gone through this evening about this or that, revenues versus this. And that's what an audit committee does, basically.
But,
I was part of an audit committee as part of an investment club, and that's what you ended up doing, is checking how much money came in and how much money was going out, and the checks and balances, and if there was a difference, find out why.
Yep. We'll be perpetually in a hole. Things don't get done right.
that was one of the issues, one of the deficiencies in the material weaknesses in the management letter. Cash book reconciliation between the treasurer and the accountants. Still not being done properly. So I'm gonna send that, with our new password, I'm gonna try to go into Veda and find the ambulance receipts fund. But that's a question that we'll have to know that week of annual town meeting, so that we know
There's enough money.
there's $250 in there. Which, by the way, I reserved this conference room for next Wednesday, the 9th, just in case. I know we had
Yeah.
talked about having another meeting, and we could even have a meeting before town meeting, because I believe that Wednesday, that it's still open. I haven't requested it yet, but, I did request next Wednesday. Because, and I will talk about this tomorrow, but I have an idea or thought, because, of the two ballot questions having an effect on the budget and stuff. I mean, and plus, a project and then a department. Because they have said, the selectmen have said, through the TA, at a meeting, it was a couple meetings ago, but, it was asked, I forget who, if the override fails. I don't think they have a plan, at least at the time, they didn't plan on having a special election and bringing that question back. I think at our joint meetings, it was talked about, it was something about you would have to get it on the state ballot, you would have to know by August. I think August something is the deadline to get, without us holding a
Yep.
special. But then there's a time frame. If it fails the ballot question, it goes to town meeting and passes. An annual town meeting, you have to have the election by September 15th, I think. I looked that up. That's under the Municipal Modernization Act. I checked under the old law and the new law. And the time frame from a special town meeting is it's a number of days. But an annual town meeting, you have to do it, annual town meetings, I think, go from like February to June, something, you can have them in there. And, so if you have a contingency article at town meeting, blah,
Right.
blah, blah, pass this contingent upon a ballot question passing. And if you do it before, then, you're all set, but if it fails, because it's been done before.
That's right.
it's failed at the ballot, it's passed at town meeting,
Yeah.
and then they had another special election
Right,
just to try it
usually
again.
what-
And it's gotta be done by, if it's at an annual town meeting, it's gotta be done by, you have September, I think it's 15th. I have it with me, but.
Well, since you had the pre-town scheduled for tomorrow, and the actual vote for the articles is happening tomorrow, having another meeting on the 9th, we have two options.
Well, my thought is, don't close
Town meeting.
the pre-town. Carry it forward to Wednesday. Two things, some of our recommendations may, and people watch it, and if we vote a no recommendation on things, that may, I don't wanna try to influence the ballot vote by, our recommendations, because we'll be doing our recommendation. Plus, like I said, if we we recommend this article, and then at the ballot, I know they just pass over it, but, so my thought was, we cover the budget and all the warrant articles tomorrow. I mean, it's a possibility, and I was gonna wait till tomorrow to discuss this, but, because the bylaw says we have to, pre-town, we gotta hold a pre-town hearing, and we gotta discuss the budget and all the articles.
Right,
But our written report with our recommendations has to be done
2 days before.
before. So we could have the pre-town and continue the hearing till the 9th to do our recommendations. And by that time, I should have the format to do the report on.
well, you have a couple options on doing it, having it on the 9th. There's a continuation of the pre-town, but also is that you have an opportunity that if you do vote on the pre-town for any articles, if you've got some additional information because of the motions that we have not seen yet, and we have discussed those, if those motions were received, we may end up changing our recommendation. So the 9th would give us another opportunity to look at those. And we still would have 10 days to take an end-up, it was 10 days before the annual town meeting. We would have an additional week to take an end-up writing those recommendations and
Getting them out somehow.
and get those out from the 9th.
Let's see,
I mean, you have those, that is an option. And the other option is if you still on the 9th, after going through this whole process, you could end up actually going to the 16th and actually finalize and actually vote your recommendations and submit them at that time. And it does make the 2 days before annual town meeting. I'm not advocating that. I would rather see us try
I'd
to
like
finish
it
this off on
earlier.
the 9th.
I'd
rather
like
than
it
16.
earlier, but, yeah, so we have some time to get it out.
That's correct.
Because we, other than volunteering it ourselves, there's nothing in the budget right now to do much else. So, but like I said, I was gonna bring that up tomorrow, because that was my thought. And immediately when I got I gave the okay for the ad to be in the paper this past Friday, and I read it, and then I thought, well, we wanted to get our stuff done early and to be able to get the information out there, and then I thought the election. I said, man, there's a couple of things, and like I said, I don't want people to read recommendations and
But they need
I'd like them to-
information, they don't have enough information.
right, but I mean, it's just,
if we were to vote for or against an article, I don't believe that it's significant enough to
Right,
end up changing
but, you know, people,
the
you know.
result for the ballot question.
It's you know, it's possible. People say, well, they're voting against recommending for, so
Well,
why
you
should I
can,
even
you can
vote
give them
for it?
options about, you can explain why you feel the way you do, and, I mean, I don't think the people have enough
Right.
information to make a decision that is gonna affect them for years.
Well, they've already done that. They
Well-
did that in 2015,
Well, I know, but this, you know,
so.
nothing's etched in concrete.
uh,
And if you're in a hole, you stop digging.
Okay. So what I'm gonna, what was I gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna email, the accountant, copy to TA, cause I know that's what's gonna happen, about the 911 grant, the allocated amount listed on March 22nd, the expended amount, and then April 23rd, the allocated change, the expended is the same, and the revenue, where, because it just doesn't seem like it's tracking.
There may be a legitimate reason why, but it's a good question to take and
Yeah,
ask.
like I said, the only thing that bugs me, if the allocated amount on March 22nd was something, and then I added the revenue to that, and it equaled the allocated amount for 423, you know, then that would just explain it, but, and if it was in, you know, if it wasn't 40 grand, if it was a few $100, then it, I mean, it's like your checkbook, you know, you can get it to the penny, but if I'm off a few bucks, I'm fine. No, but I mean, there's a $40,000 difference here,
Yeah,
plus
it's a lot
the
of money.
revenue, it's, you know, that's three big things.
I view us as asking questions.
You know, if it was 606 and it was 8 down here, I mean, it's an issue, but it's not a huge thing, but,
Well, but
you know, when
still,
it's 40 and then the revenue doesn't fit in there, I'd have to look to see what was before,
well, you know
this
what,
one.
that's why we're here, so we ask.
but the expenditures stayed the same, so it's not like they can, you know, well, I spent money out of there, or money came, it just, this number here, you know, if you put it in there, you add it to that, that's what this number should be. And then this expenditure should change, but these are the same.
Magic.
It's a recording error, that's what I think.
I
But
see us asking questions is actually doing our job, and there's a couple places where we're the watchdogs of the finances of the community. And that's right in the selectmen's handbook, that we are the watchdogs, and we're performing a function of actually asking the questions. I don't see anything wrong with asking the questions. There may be reasons why that there's a legitimate as to the difference, or that we may have caught something that was an error that can be corrected. I mean, that's,
If you don't question it, then you're negligent.
we did catch in one of the transfers last year or the year before, with it was taking money out of town fuel, I think. It was one of the funds for the highway, and
Yep.
doing the transfers, backtracking, it was, there was one transfer that was not taken out. It didn't short the account for the transfer that they were requesting, but that transfer, back through the BVA's and the, prior transfers in the town meetings, it was $2,600 or something like that. And that transfer was not recorded. So it looked like you had more money in fuel than you actually did. Unfortunately, even with that error, the amount that they were transferring out of there, it didn't make the account negative. But it was a mistake, and it was, corrected.
Well,
And it was corrected because we were backtracking on that stuff.
right, and how many times did we ask for the stabilization money amount last year? We were told and reassured it's 142, 142,000, 142,000.
And then it turned out to be what, 90?
92, and they wanted to take 87 out of it.
Yeah,
They were
Okay.
mad for a long time after.
Right.
so
We would have had nothing.
it just, so that's the question I'm gonna, on that, and then I'm just gonna, I'm gonna ask if there will be a, either on town floor or before, the ambulance receipts fund balance. They're taking 250 out for general fund, which is, I gotta do some more math on the budget and the override, cause it still don't add up. So those other ones that you had, you found the difference?
The only thing I didn't personally find was the, where the library, gift expense, went. There was the 209 number that when added to the 331 number made the total now correct. But there's still a $221 gift that I have no idea where it's recorded,
Was the interest or the gift?
the interest. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know,
Unless it's something that hasn't been done yet, but, you know, I don't have the revenue on this one here. And the March
Yeah.
one, that's the one that was sent, one of the joint meetings we were at.
Mhm.
It was sent out, the meeting was over, and I checked my email, and she said, I just sent that out. Cause there was a question, there was a question came up during that meeting, and she sent it out to clarify it, I think, so. So that's the question I have for that. I'll email that when I get home, because if I wait, I'll forget. I'll get behind. So is there anything else on the revenue or the budget versus actual?
I'm sure there'll be more between now and town meeting.
Well, we will have to the 9th. Okay. Does anybody have anything on the budget that they want to kick around tonight versus tomorrow, or just wait? Because we've gone through the warrant articles. And like I said, I remember we talked about, I said I printed out the advisory committee one as it sits now. Just, for me, it was easier to reference. And so we can check the vote, or make sure if the CPC has changed anything on the Fernal School land that they wanna, and the license and permits for delinquent taxpayers.
Yeah, the question that comes up is the fact that we have an article about the, let me see which article it is. Oh, yes, Article 23.
All right, are we gonna do the warrant?
Unless you want, it does,
Right.
it does beg the question about that particular article that goes back to the actual budget. But I think we maybe, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we go through the warrant articles, and when we come up to the budget one, that probably is the appropriate time to discuss the,
Like I said, I think we didn't really have many issues as far as,
Well, I do have an issue, but
Oh, I mean.
I would rather
when we
like,
went
wait till
through
the warrant
when we
article.
went through the warrant, I think our questions were, where's the minutes? I bet you the minutes.
That's what I'm talking about, Bob.
We got up to 18.
Yeah.
Yep. This one right here. Yep, and look at 20.
Yeah.
Where are we, 18?
I think that should be knocked down,
Yeah, I'm looking at the minutes,
or it shouldn't be there at all.
No.
when we get to, we look at Article 32, that first page of the request for the OPM. I looked for an OPM contract, I couldn't find it. An executed one.
I left my book home this evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I could end up saying that we should continue on with the warrant articles, and when we get to the budget, we'll
So,
discuss that at that particular time rather than separate.
What was that question? I don't, it, what did I do with it?
Rick, I'm allergic to something in here.
Do you want a cough drop?
Yeah, if you got one.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been in a house full of flowers all day. They do it to you. Thank you, my dear.
They taste terrible, but they work.
All right. I told you. What the heck am I gonna?
They say I can give you any taste like death, like the syrup, it's horrible, but it works.
You should give me something that's gonna kill me.
Okay. Okay, we left off with Article 18 with the question of, and I'll try this again tomorrow. To who put this forward?
Yeah, and I also had a question, I put a notation. If this, Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5B, does it create a conflict with Mass General Law 4453F and a half, which creates enterprise funds? Can you have a stabilization within an enterprise? I don't know.
So Julie, your question was, does this create a conflict with Mass
With-
General Law?
Yeah, Mass General Law 4453F and a half, that's the enterprise account law. Which I believe the sewer department enterprise was established under that law.
That's correct.
Okay.
Were we able to get a budget for the sewer?
It's in the book.
It's in the book.
Oh, it's in the
Yeah.
book?
It's in there.
Okay.
And the cable was in the book too, Will.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, yeah. It's actually in the electronic version also.
Okay.
Here's a question, maybe
I don't think it does.
maybe it's redundant after, is there's, later on, there's, if you look at the sewage budget per se, there's a section under the salaries. On the personnel, under that is, account number 5100. And it has 4 sewage commissioner stipends. But we also have an article in the warrant that sets the salary. I mean, isn't it, and the same thing for the town clerk? Doesn't that seem redundant to everybody,
It's something to do, they're elected.
So if the article does not pass,
And you don't get paid.
so if the Article 20 does not pass, the town clerk and the sewage commissioners do not get paid, is that the,
Sounds like it.
That would
even,
be,
even if it's in their budget?
Sound like that.
I mean, I'm asking a question.
Can't pay employees.
Well, the other,
Yeah.
the other question on elected officials
one
is
is
light
that?
and water also get a stipend
Yeah,
as commissioners, and they're not mentioned in this.
because we don't do their budget. Till we undo that.
Well,
which brings up a good point. If they were elected officials and we vote for them, and it's in their budget,
We should
Right.
vote for that.
it should be in here also.
right,
It would seem like they should all be the same, you know?
Well,
Well,
I know that's,
if you're chosen few,
well, they comes out of the operating expense of the enterprise fund.
but it seems like it's town money, even though it's a light company. So if we have to
It's an
vote,
enterprise fund though, so it's part of their operating expense. The ratepayers pay that. That's the end game there. All enterprise funds
it's like
can do
splitting
that.
hairs.
Well,
It
That's
begs
the
the
government.
question at least to
so is an
take it
enterprise.
up, what's the why is there a difference?
And like, yes, it was just mentioned, sewer is an enterprise fund, so why are we voting on that?
yeah, see, the article just, it sets the salaries. It says what they will make. It's not about
To fix or
appropriating the
maintain
money.
the salaries.
Right. So you put their salary in their budget, and town meeting could, in theory, reduce that.
Yep.
Somebody might be in a pickle if they decided to vote to increase it.
Well, Mass General Law 41-108, to fix and maintain the salaries of elected officials. Well, we have elected commissioners over there.
Yep, and they are, it's
Over
same
where?
same as the sewer
Light company.
commissioners.
But we don't do their budget at town meeting.
This has nothing to do with the budget, this article. It's
It comes
elected
from-
officials.
That comes
So-
from the enterprise fund, the sewer one.
Yeah, so there's, if you're gonna vote for one, you should vote for them both.
Well, it does say Board of
I'll throw it at
Selectmen.
Carter, give him something to
It says
stew
Board
about.
of Selectmen and all others, so,
And it sets the amount at zero.
Technically, wouldn't
Right.
that state that, yeah, they would get paid zero,
That's what it says here.
Right.
other than the ones listed?
right. But I know that's what the case is. You know, that road you're gonna go down.
But
I
it's-
understand it, but
makes
it's,
sense.
Well, I
You see that
understand.
it
If
makes-
it's not listed here separately, the Light and Water Commissioner set their thing, then it should be zero.
well, we know that's not gonna happen, but
But, well, right
Yeah,
now.
but it legally, it's either gotta be one way or the other, it can't be both. So that would be a good,
Yeah,
I mean,
oh,
see, we
it
get
could be
town
both.
council. We'll have 'em
It
work
can be
on
both. It has been both.
I know it has, but that just, they sprayed apple trees with arsenic of lead, but they don't do that anymore.
So, anyways, so that's, it's not an appropriation article, it's just setting them,
But I still would ask.
so.
It did help, thank you.
They do taste terrible.
It's all right,
Okay.
better than choking to death over here.
Okay, Article,
What are we doing?
19.
Okay. Again, this, the only question would be for me is that stabilization fund allowable under?
Yes, the town
Right.
can have as many stabilization funds for multiple purposes as they wish.
Right, the town can, but this is putting it under the sewer enterprise.
And it will be,
I just, if we're gonna do this, I'd like to do it correctly the first time and not have 6 other articles at 6 other special or annual town meetings
To fix some
correcting it.
screw up.
Not that we've ever done that before.
No, but it costs us more in legal fees. If we
Yeah.
do it right the first time, we won't sell our soul.
our trustee, Board of Selectmen
Oh,
have-
yeah.
have verified this,
I
I'm
wouldn't
sure.
count on it.
So is that the question? It's the same question as,
It's the same
Article
question,
18?
right,
Okay.
because now you're just putting money into the stabilization fund, the CapEx for the sewer fund.
What did I do my thing with my questions?
and it's the same as general law?
Yeah.
How come nobody said anything about 2 senior officers leaving?
Okay, is that the one, 18 and 19, that's the only concern?
It's not an article.
Okay.
It's a-
All right, Article 20. Again, this sets the salaries, it doesn't appropriate any money. And if the funding is already contained within the department's budget. Like I said, the only hitch would be if our town meeting said, you know what, we wanna pay the town clerk 70 grand, and they voted in, somebody have to be doing some fast shuffling.
Or 30,000.
Well, if you reduce it, it's like I said, the 56, the amount is already accounted, so if you go down, that's not a big
No,
issue,
if
but
you
it's
go
if
up.
you go above what's set aside. Not that I don't think that's happened, but, I mean, that's a possibility, if they decided, you know what, our town clock's worth more than that. So you'd have to take it from somewhere to fill that, but, so is there any issue with that article?
Yeah, maybe we can get clarification from the administrator tomorrow as to what the difference is between the light commissioners and this.
Oh.
I mean, I think that's a good question.
It's an
At
honest
least
question.
it'll
Right.
clarify.
And we can even ask it at town meeting individually if we
Yeah,
want to.
because then there's
Right.
the lawyers there,
Right,
hopefully if they bother to ask
right.
him to
I
come.
mean, with this question, if it passes,
I
you
mean,
know,
yeah,
Because
I
the
know
light
the answer,
company
but-
has to come to the town to borrow money.
So,
look at new attorneys.
We'll have
I
them
mean,
screaming
just
out the
because we're
door.
asking that question, there probably could be very, very easy, somebody asking about the light company is that the commissioners get money, and so how come they're not included? I mean, we not, probably won't be the only ones. Well, I would hope we're not the only ones.
Yep.
That somebody else is asking that question also.
so,
You did see this, right?
Yeah, just because you do something one way doesn't make it right. Hey,
all right.
CBA. The, oh, yeah. Yeah, so this is where they're saying we get a raise from, so what's that? Oh, what's that, 20 up there? Yeah.
Additional raises? Just good guy raises?
Good question.
what?
Okay, Article 21,
When we get there, Bev.
Okay,
that's the general fund operating budget.
Yes.
I think we do need to ask
You wanna
that.
come back to this one? Or do you want to go through the budget?
Why don't we come back to this one?
You wanna come back to this one?
Yeah, I may not be able to stay
Because
for the whole meeting.
there's an article later on that
Well,
comes back to this that I,
Right,
so, all right, Article 22, funding of the AFL-CIO Local 155. One's dispatch and one's police. I can't remember which is which.
does yours say $1?
Yes.
Okay,
And down below, Julie, it says that they're being
Okay.
funded by the lack of two higher ranking officers.
Right.
They're-
There's two senior officers left the police department, and they
Right.
hired two new ones in there. The salary money in there
rookies.
is still there to fund the senior officers. One was, I believe, Brian Rosengren, and part of that's paid for by the school, but,
One question that I do have regarding this that comes up with what, the Board of Selectmen's budget has $40,000 listed for raises and.
CBA agreements.
Okay. CBA agreement, so I'm just wondering, because it says $22,000 here for the police, and it says $20,000 on the other thing for the police, so this would be the fixed contract raises, and the other ones would be, here you go, good guy raises?
I thought, are you looking at Article 23?
yep,
Okay,
that one too,
22 is what I was,
right.
22 and 23.
yeah.
Okay, so if we look at those together, I think, Local 155 are the police and 155A are dispatch, but it's not really written that way. It says police and dispatch account,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure.
Somebody did a good job doing these warrant articles. Clear as mud.
Wait till we get
Well,
to the motions.
I guess that just, I mean, and this might not be the right spot for this, but
Yeah.
it
The
just,
police is 155,
Right,
and that's in the back of your, well, it was a thing handed out,
yeah.
so
right, the
155.
collective bargaining agreement.
Right, but, so local 155 is the police and 155A is dispatch.
Okay, so this is to fund the contract raises with the local unions for the police department and the dispatch. And I guess I'm just trying to determine what the,
Well, don't forget, there's also a collective bargaining agreement with the highway.
right, but I guess they have it listed on the, and I don't know if this is the thing, but they got it listed on the electronic version or whatever as having the police at
20,000
20,000 for, under the Board of Selectmen
for raises.
raises. So I'm just, it just seems like we have the contract raises, which amount to 22,000, and then we have 20,000 set aside for, in another,
All right, so to me, it's like this article is unnecessary because they have the money within the police department due to the resignation of 2 senior officers. I'm talking about Article 22.
What is it
Or do you maybe they had to have an article just to be able to pay them? Because it's like $1.
Yeah, to fund the, collective bargaining
But
agreement.
like Julie said, there's money.
But if there's money within the line item for police department salaries to cover the
Well, I
contract
think
agreement,
that's why I think it's only $1 for the
right,
Well,
so
155.
then
See-
that's not 22,000
and
then.
now, right on the front page here, under the 5100, on the 5100 for the police, it has 21,780, increase to all wages lines due to the 52.2 week increase for work weeks and CBA increases to employees, steps and longevity. So that's 21,780.
So that's like 22 grand.
Right,
Right.
which is this, so then, again, what's the 20?
Can you
I-
say slush fund?
Yeah, I can, and that's why I don't like it.
I know.
I can say all kinds of things, but,
See, they have,
I have no problem with employees getting raises, I just don't like, gifts.
there's 40,000 reserved for the CBA, equity, merit, and/or COLA raises.
Okay, but that's outside of out of the collective bargaining,
Well, it's reserved for the collective bargaining
Yes,
agreement, right, on
okay.
top of it.
right. So there's another 40,000 on top of that.
Well, how much of this
Ka-ching,
is
ka-ching.
for, see, that's why I don't like this mingled, because the merit raise, it's for non-union,
Right,
for everything. Cause I have that famous email that says there's 10,000 buried in the selectmen's budget, just in case we need it, see?
Right.
They wouldn't do that, no.
but that wasn't for
No.
FY19.
No, that was,
No, that was a few ago.
Would somebody do that?
that was 17 budget, I believe.
So what we really need to know is how much is saved, what is the difference between 2 senior officers and 2 incoming officers? What is that dollar amount? Because we're talking dollars here. And does that dollar amount take into account that it costs about 50 grand to get a new officer up and running?
And then
with
they
all the
leave.
training, and then they leave.
Yep.
And that we do this all the time.
Yep.
Well, it happens in a lot of small towns, people, you know,
Yeah, but
They
just
move
the
up.
same.
I know.
they go to a better, you know. You gotta
Right.
start someplace, it's like, you know, getting a company and you're starting a janitor and then you work your way up and then you got experience and you go someplace to make more cake. I don't blame them at all.
No, I'm not saying I blame them, but I'm just saying that there's costs involved with new officers as well.
It's not like we're getting a freebie.
Hmm.
And since we don't really have a dollar amount to work with, we can't really,
Right.
Yeah, and looking at the dollar amounts here and the, you know, the pays under the officers and so forth, the difference between an officer and a sergeant is only, you know, $2 an hour. So that ain't making up $20,000.
well, when you count all the time and, yeah.
240, 80, 4,000.
Mm.
Really?
You're in the wrong line of employment.
Yeah, I guess I am. Holy crolly. All right.
But then if you hide, you'll never get shot at. Kidding.
I
If
can
they're
always
shooting
be
at me-
scared.
If they're shooting at me, as long as I got a gun to shoot back with, I'm all set.
I can always be scared to death, so I can shoot.
Yeah, I don't know, Article 22 does not make sense when you read it. And then it say, well, the total cost of CBA is approximately 22,000, there's more than sufficient funds in the 2019 budget appropriation for the police department due to the resignation of 2 senior officers will be replaced with substantially lower paid officers. That to me says, we got enough money there to cover the $22,000 that we need, so that we don't need it.
Right.
Unless I'm interpreting differently, that's,
Unless in order to pay them, they have to have an article.
Town meeting
the
has to,
budget.
town meeting has to vote.
Yeah.
Once
to
you
accept
vote
the
the budget,
collective- to
Yeah.
the
So I don't know why they did that.
once we vote
Yeah,
Article 20 in
yeah.
for the operating budget,
So,
that means there's enough money in the police
So why
department
did-
budget
why did they
starting
bother
July
with that?
1st to pay everybody.
That's why it's only
Right.
asking for a
A
dollar
dollar
versus the dispatch one.
is 6.
are they got a dollar in there to just to cover the fact that the town's voting on it?
that's what I think.
So they didn't, so if you look
Doesn't
back
make
at the,
sense.
at the actual budget under the selectmen, there's $20,000 that they don't need.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
you
it sounds
know,
like they have $20,000 in there that's being covered by this.
right,
So, yeah.
So they got $20,000 too much somewhere.
And then they're gonna stick it in the E911 grant.
Are you talking about the, under the selectmen, that
Yes.
40,000
Yeah.
amount that they
Mhm.
have?
Mhm.
What, do you read the little thing down there, transferable to any department by the TA? It might
Yeah.
not say it in electronic, but it says it in the
There's
in
a
the paper
little
copy.
slush fund.
Yeah, it says transferable by BOS to other departments as needed upon request of the TA.
right.
So there's a slush fund.
So there is an extra 20 built in
So
there.
there's
to
40,
do
there's
right
60
with what-
then. If you
Right.
take the 20 and 60. 40?
And
Well,
that's,
either you need or you don't.
see, we had line item at town meeting, you'd see this stuff.
Yep.
Well, the way it is, that if it's just a selectmen's, then it's appropriate to take and end up making adjustments to any of the departments, whether you have a line item or not.
So why bother?
Right, and the selectmen have the authority to enter into a contract, a collective bargaining agreement. So I don't know why this article is on the warrant for town meeting.
It's something a little funny in the, I think when Michael was here, they did it, because it was one of those things, a little technicalities that wasn't being done. that needed to be done.
Can I ask and find out?
Okay.
Does that mean that when we went into collective bargaining in past years and didn't have an article
Yeah, it was-
separate like
it
this
was-
here,
it
it
was
was
being-
illegal?
It was being done wrong.
That's what I think is, that's why you're doing it.
That was the gist of the conversation at one of the selectmen's meetings I was at a couple years back.
Then you look at other communities, the same thing should be happening in other communities. And you look at some of the warrants in other communities, and you don't see this. You see what we were doing previously. So does that mean that
Everybody else
all
is doing it.
communities don't know what they're doing? And all of a sudden,
We've seen
the
the
light
light.
came on and we're gonna take and change and be different than everybody else?
Well,
Who knows?
I'm just posing the question.
we're not that different from a lot of towns, but, so, let's see.
So it sounds like they got listed twice.
Like I said, I invited the TA to come tomorrow. I did not hear back, so I don't know if he will. He did give me a verbal at a selectmen's meeting that if I want, if you'd like him there, invite him. So I sent an email to invite him, and I have not heard back. That's not to say I might not hear tomorrow, but, yeah, so you're gonna fund this Article 23 by a transfer from accounts of selectmen to the accounts of police and dispatch. And this one here, it's only $1.
Why are you doing an article for a transfer? That's something you do at the end of the year. This is the start of the new fiscal year for FY19.
Then that only begs the question, if that's the case and you have Article 22, then you have Article 24, which they've got $23,000 for police. Under 2019. Am I missing something here? If you've got enough money there, you don't need it, then why are we having more money in the police?
I would have to go back and look. Detail, let's see. I'm wondering if they had changed the police budget before, to come up with that extra 100 and something thousand for the school. If they had cut that out, changed the amount, and I have to look at the old sheet, before those officers.
Yeah,
No,
that's,
because if you have officers funded
right.
and you cut expenses, and then you say, well, we're going for a larger override than we thought, so we'll put that in there to try to get that money back, and then those officers leave, and suddenly, you will have an extra chunk of money, that you really don't need to be asking for.
Yeah,
But the ballots are already printed and everything, so. But see, you can get, and I gotta reread this again, but I'm pretty sure you can vote an override in, but you don't have to appropriate the money at town meeting. And all that does is increase your levy, but you don't have to appropriate the money. I'll read that again, but I saw that in one of these, DLS updates, on overrides, underrides, and so forth. Let's see, I have to go look at the other sheets. And this is why the accountant and, Carter should be here for Freetown. Let's see if there's any, okay, well, that don't add up to quite the amount, but it does change. So that's 15 grand difference. I'm sorry about that.
Well, for a list of all the things we do wrong, all you have to do is look in this audit report.
Okay, see, I'm looking at sheet page 84. And these are the change sheets. And 82.
84A,
82. 82.
82. That's the supplement ones.
I know,
83.
80, page 84,
Right.
there should be two sheets in there, an old one and a new one. The new one would be dated 4/9/18. And that's what I think they did, because they did this so fast with the school thing. The original for page 84, which is police and dispatch purchase of services. It had the TA's 63,500. The change was 55,500. And if somebody's got a calculator, that should be an $8,000 difference. And page 82, which is police and dispatch personnel, the original had 1,175,000. The change, the updated, was 1,160,000. And if you want to check my math, that's 15, so that's 23 grand that they're trying to put back into the police, need it or not, but that's where that 23 grand is. And I believe those were amounts that were, like I said, because they did that on the fly, because it was a school budget subcommittee meeting. The last district reorganization meeting we had, the budget subcommittee meeting met right after that at 6 o'clock. Carter stayed, and the selectmen meeting started, and we were both still sitting there. And the town was proposing for the school to cut the whole 300 and something thousand, right? And, so I raised my hand and suggested, why don't you split the difference, and
Yep,
the town come up and the school go down that amount. So, okay, then they had to find that 140,000, 130, whatever the dollar figure was. And like I said, that was fast and furious, quick, I think at the next selectmen's meeting. Or the TA did it and then put it in front of the selectmen and boom. And that's, we had a meeting and we got all these updated pages. And then, when there was talk about the override, because it was originally at, what, 3-something, whatever it is.
76.
Yeah. And they were gonna do 60 cents. And then some people, you know, said, hey, we'll do this, go for more. And when they went for more, now they're trying to get that 23 back, to put back into place. And like I said, I think it happened, this happened, those officers hadn't left yet. That would be my thought. And since those officers have left, now that money is in the budget, on top of asking for the 23 to put back.
Yeah.
So, if that's the case, then I really can't say it was a fast one.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
All right.
I know it does equal to perhaps more money being in there.
That's the one that's dated 4/9,
Yes,
because I'm also got one at 3/5.
right, that was the, I think that was the original,
So
Yeah.
we still end up with more money.
3.5, they 82 was the original, then they did an update, and then they, like I said, I think this 4.9 is, that's how I think that came about. I'd have to check my date on the meetings, but, that's my thought on that.
All right.
And yes, the end result is,
Here's what I don't
But
understand.
no,
the end result will be, there will be money, more than enough money in there. But if we don't, and if it just stays there and is not spent, just remember
Goes in the
that the
general
following
fund.
next year, no, if whatever money is, funds are left over, that's how you're gonna generate that elusive free cash,
Okay,
which,
yeah.
it seems the only way we're gonna build up reserves, if we can stop backfilling
You wanna
budgets.
do a wager on whether it's gonna be there or not?
all right.
Here's what I don't understand. If he's giving you these supplement, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. If he's giving us these supplement sheets, if the electronic version should match his supplement sheets. And we got this thing called the FY19 budget final AC.
On when? I forget, I looked at it, but I look at the.
I mean,
book.
in an email, and I downloaded it, and it shows the one.
Does it have a date on the top? Like the,
It says 2/26/18. But I mean, he could have put that date in and then say final AC. I mean, how can you have a final AC
Told you it was gonna change 100 times between now and town
and
meeting.
then do paper copy? I mean, that's
oh,
just,
it's only changed 3
to
times
me,
now.
electronic version should, if we got an electronic version, it should represent what's in the book and all the sheets that he has given us. By giving us sheets, it makes it more difficult for us to take and end up going through these budgets. That's just my comment.
I'll have to look at, see what's on the website. I'll put my 2 laptops next to each other and bring them both up. I know I can do 2 windows, but that's beyond my,
Don't feel bad.
I got those laptops, you can go on that computer and have this screen open and this screen open and look at them. Well, see, they get small,
Yeah,
and I need big. So I put 2 computers side by side and full size it.
All
That's my solution to that,
buy you a big screen.
All
that
right.
issue.
I have a different issue, and I found it in highway. I was looking for Article 24, what the 15,000 was cut, okay? Because the override is gonna put 15,000 back into that budget.
Okay.
If you look at the bottom of the sheets, yeah, okay, it looks like from the first sheet we got, the total that the administrator allowed was 167,000. And then on April 9th, we got one that said it's 152,000.
Right.
Now, the devil is in the details. okay? I've got the sheets.
That's because you bake and I don't.
I know, and, you know? There is no cut of $15,000. If you look at the line items, okay, they're all the same amounts,
Just the bottom
okay?
changes.
The
Well, no,
request,
yeah, that's
yeah,
because, remember that? I asked that question about, we were doing down something, and he leaves it to the department head to cut
To find it.
whatever.
He just comes up with a number.
He just gives you a total. So in other words, and then that's,
well, from the original to the April 9th, there should have been 15,000 cut, right?
what page is that?
138.
It's nothing cut. Why is that in trouble?
Like I said, they did this so fast and furious.
Yeah, but, you know, this is something we gotta live with, and that's something I gotta pay for.
So now, the original request amount comes up, and at the bottom it says it was 173,934, and then the administrator recommended was 152,000. The numbers going across are exactly the same. And if you look at the prior one, it's the same thing. The numbers going across are exactly the same.
Oh,
So-
yeah, here's my
Yeah.
note. It's up to the department head to cut where. So, say he says,
That
okay,
nuts. I'm not voting for this budget. How the
Well,
hell can you, how can a department head cut $15,000? What if they don't do it?
Well, it's done.
the total is there. It's,
Yeah, I know, like,
it's already cut.
I know, but.
He has this much money, so this is how he explained it. Like you said, well, fuel, you can't do that, and gas, and if you got a yearly testing thing, but maybe we cut back on supplies,
No
tires,
toilet
maybe we
paper
do.
for 6 months.
You buy the stuff that's double layer, that was the explanation.
What a way to do
He has a
things.
total, instead of screwing around with the line item numbers,
Just this, here,
You just put mythical numbers in there,
you just put a total there,
and
and
you
that's
hope
the
everyone just
bottom
votes
line.
for it?
Yeah,
Without any explanation of what 15,000 is gonna be
because we
cut,
don't
if
go,
that doesn't-
we don't,
we don't do line items
He's just
anymore.
He's just disallowing that much of the budget for that department,
yeah.
that
Okay.
percentage. He just, that's what he was saying, he takes a certain percentage and just cuts it.
Well,
And, then it's up to the department to find it, to figure out where they can and cannot cut.
I think we know why Alan left.
Well, that's very similar to the COA. I mean, what he did is he
Right.
said, he cut the Meals on Wheels, the funding, but just said, not saying to cut the program or anything like that, just saying find a different method to finance it.
Because this is, if we saw, I believe, if we saw what if we had the department heads come to our meetings and say, where's your budget, and throw it on the table, I believe this is what you would sort of see. Because he lets,
Shit.
they've said it more than once, that department heads, that
But I can't
however they keep track of their
No.
stuff, they keep track of their stuff.
Now remember.
So when they look at the
Automatic.
DVA,
Yeah.
and it's, that's
Oh,
my problem with
And then if you
the.
get too late in the year and you forgot to take 15,000
No,
off, oh my God. then-
See, it's,
Jesus Christ, what a way
it's
to
no
go.
different than you throw, what,
Oh, wow.
I'll just throw a number out here, I throw 10 grand in a
The
checking
emails.
account
I guess
for the
not.
month,
Yeah.
and I just write checks, I don't know how much I'm allotting for, I don't allow individual things, I gotta put it away. Let's see, my light bill, say $100 a month, so I gotta put 1,200 for the light bill, 1,200 fee, no, I just throw a lump sum, and then, but, so I'm gonna cut back on the lights, I'm gonna cut back on this, cause I'm gonna be traveling lots, I'm gonna spend a lot of money on gas and eating out. So I think this is, and again, I didn't really sit down and have the in-depth but I think these line item things is what if you saw
Glad
the
you can
department
explain
head
it.
budgets.
So Julie, which one were you talking about? Police and
I'm talking about highway,
highway?
all right,
All
page
right.
138 in budget book.
All right, I'm not talking, I'm looking at the summary,
Right,
and the summary says 616,250. is the town administrator recommendation.
For highway,
For highway, yeah.
I have 601, 250.
I'm looking at the online version, page 10.
All right, this is the one that came out with the new sheets that we just put
General
in.
fund,
That includes the override then?
Yeah.
The 15,000, that's what the difference would be. So the online version is different from the print version that we had. And the online version seems to have the override
Yeah.
amounts built in.
Put back in.
Yeah. Because I have, for highway, I have 601,250, and you have 616?
616, 250.
Right, so that's
So-
the 15,000.
And I'm assuming this is the latest version. It doesn't have a date on it. It
I-
just says 10.
Right, that's all you can do at this point.
Okay. But to Jeff's point,
Mm,
the individual department detail
Right,
Right.
isn't
Because-
adjusted.
but-
You're only gonna see the adjusted amounts in the total, in the summary page,
Right.
the general fund department expense
Because that's why
budget.
when you look at, that was our big thing about going round and round about the BVA.
yeah.
You know, you see supplies, it's just one amount. If you wanna cut back on, you know,
Right.
toilet paper, you wanna cut back on copy paper, we're gonna use, hey, guys, start, don't wipe your hand off in one rag and then throw it in the grill and grab it to clean, you know, I'm just saying, it's,
yeah.
Sure.
it allows them to,
And it should be,
instead of a bean counter telling you, look, you're gonna spend this much on copy paper, you're
long
gonna
as they
spend
do
this
it.
much on this, you're gonna spend this much on that. It's like, here's your money,
right.
run your department.
And then,
And I agree with that. It should be delegated to the department heads, to figure out where they're gonna make the cuts, so. This is, the summary page is what we should be paying attention to.
All right, but now I'm concerned that we have different summary pages, that the online
Could be.
version is
I'm
different
just-
from,
I don't see multiple
version.
versions on the electronic.
so should we be working on the electronic version and not the paper version?
yeah, it's good to have that book. I lug it all the way over here, waste of time.
All right.
But if they are, let's see, what's that date, 4/19?
I have it on my laptop at home, so I can print out the summary sheet
Yeah,
electronically and compare it to this, so we know which one.
601, 250, and if you add, is that the difference, the 15?
Yeah. So for police and dispatch,
Yeah.
I've got 1,299,000,
Where did I do it?
I've got 1,322,000.
and that would be the 23,000 from the override added in. Okay,
Okay, and highway was 15, right? Yeah,
So we still get the question of,
right.
you know, is it
56, 16.
Now, fire and EMS, I have 413,616, and you would have, what,
438,116,
438?
fire and EMS, yeah.
All right, so that one doesn't have the override in it, but
So-
it's not the same as the print version.
Hmm.
But I wanna compare the one that's on the town website with the
Mhm.
one that was sent to the advisory committee, to
Right.
make sure they jive.
Can you run the police and dispatch one more time? What's the actual,
The one I have in the print version,
Yeah.
is that what you want? I have $1,299,000. And I
Okay.
think if you add the 23,000 from the override to that, you should have the online version number. Which I don't have it right off the top of my head.
1322.
Yeah,
It's,
then why would he send us electronic version, an older version, an old rev for us to be looking at and give us paper copies that they can end up chasing back and forth?
Because he can.
Um,
See if you notice.
So the highway one
The
he added the,
The highway one was added in,
so that matches the electronic,
yeah.
but the police and dispatch,
What was the
Police and
highway again?
dispatch does, but the fire EMS does not.
okay.
What was the number on the highway?
Highway, 601,250. And you should have 616,250.
Right.
616,
Yep,
I can
yep,
do that.
616.
I even did that in my head. I'd be smart, I hang out with the
Okay.
bear a lot.
But when you go to fire EMS, the override is 290,000. And you look at fire and EMS, and in the print version, it's 413,616. If you add 290 to that, that's close to 700,000. Should be, right?
Yep.
If that's what you're really gonna put the money toward.
Yeah, I don't see, I don't see the ambulance fund separate anywhere here, so
All right,
I don't know why it's not added. If it, to be consistent, I mean, we're making that assumption,
right.
that these final numbers that are on the online general fund department expense budget page have the override amounts added back in, but that's not the case with fire and EMS.
Right, and let's, insurance and benefits, that's the other one that's listed.
Insurance and benefits,
That's for the,
I have
whoops, that is for the fire and EMS,
2,247,250.
I have 2,279,500.
Yeah, so that's not an addition of 133,890.
33,890.
Yeah,
So that's about 50,000 more, right, or something like that? No,
I'm gonna make a suggestion that the electronic version is older than is before
the paper.
The, let's say the school came in with their numbers, before they took the numbers out to put them back in.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah. So I think it's even more out of date than,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would explain it.
yeah, it seems to.
yeah, but I don't know why some of the departments have it in and some don't.
Well, what I think Bob's suggesting is that this version that's online was
Yeah.
before
Right,
the school numbers came in
Right.
and the additional cuts that had to be made.
Okay,
right, so they, the ones that match, before they took the cut out.
Correct.
That doesn't give a good representation to us as well as the general community.
Well, that's why I said, I wanna check the emailed one with the one that's on the website
Yep.
and see how they match up. Cause the one on the website may,
Now,
I don't think so,
No?
because I don't think it's been updated,
Yeah.
anyways near recent enough. I think it was put on around the same
I
time.
know
Somebody
they've
goes on the,
changed-
on the web, on the website, and they look at budget up and it's not correct versus going into annual town meeting, that's an issue.
all right,
which budget did the selectmen vote?
okay, I got to this online version by going to the town administrator page and the FY19 budget and annual town meeting information link.
okay, so that matches the
Is
email
it
one, right?
sections, like
First
section
Yes.
one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
And then
that's
it's-
prior to the changes.
It's, so the paper copy is more up to date.
yep.
But to your point, if you go online and people
Well,
looking at
why
the
in the
budget, they're
devil
gonna
would he
see.
send you a,
That's,
And-
I'm looking at the electronic
he said
copy
it was a
should match
final, he
everything
said
in
it
the
was
book.
supposed to be a final budget.
Yep.
So, Will, the version you're looking on electronically, how did you get to it? Is it from,
That was emailed to us.
oh,
The email one.
oh, okay.
I was thinking maybe the one on the town website and that would be different. You know, the one on the
Well, they-
website would be more up to date, but I think they're the same.
Okay, I'm not looking at the one that was emailed to us. I'm
Because
look-
I also
I'm
have,
looking at the one on the
Website.
town administrator's website.
So. What's the summary total, Paul? Do you have it?
Yep, let me get back to it. So it's 8,315,481.
Yeah.
Right. Let me say this. I have the one he sent us, and I made copies of what's on the website, and I'm looking at that, and for, as an example, highway, I have 616,250, and on the one that was mailed is 616,250. So they're both the,
They're
just,
different.
just that one item.
So we got three different totals.
Hang on one second, I'm just trying to.
So,
315, 841. 315, 841. Look, the one that's on the website and the one that we have electronic is the same.
Okay,
The only thing that seems to be different is the paper copies. That should never, never happen.
and the paper copy is more up to date.
The paper copies are up to date, but when you put out a budget and you put it on the website and you send it to your finance committee, they
It
should
was
all
just-
match the paper
It
copies.
was a test to see if you would
Your
notice.
paper copies aren't up to date,
They're not.
no. Okay? Police and dispatch on the summary sheet add up, okay? If you add the 23,000 in, then that one equals the electronic.
Is this the
Okay.
Markle issue all over again?
I don't know what this is.
The Friday night before the meeting?
What's new? You're not supposed to notice. That's why they want us gone,
that can't be right.
in case you didn't notice.
So the 129900.
Right, if you add 23,000, that comes up to electronic version.
So the paper copy this is up to date, because this was done after they made those cuts.
But it does not include the override amounts in all departments. And the bottom line, the total amount is 8,220,231, and they had 8,300,something, 8,300,000. You would think you would take this amount of money, the 8,220,000, and add the override amount, 470, 264, 246, and come up with
But
a
I
new
don't
total.
think, I don't think the fire EMS salaries aren't in there at all.
They're not.
The warrant
Aren't in
article,
the totals at all. He
Article
took 'em out.
21, Article 21, regardless of the double dollar signs, is $8,220,298.
And that's what I was just comparing to the online version, and it's
The
off,
fire
it's,
EMS.
that's less by
When
$95,000,
he changed, when he updated it, departments, Dicky had them listed, and he
The
zeroed them all out.
online version is
with a note,
95,000 less
they're
or
all
more?
Contingent upon the
Oh.
override.
Right.
Is it less or more?
So.
The online version is more than what's in Article 21.
9740. And,
Isn't
see,
that-
But it's
originally,
not by the amount that's in the
Yeah,
override.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
So it's gotta be an older version or,
but I think if you look under fire EMS,
yeah,
if you look at the salaries
That's a problem.
for, the firefighter, full-time firefighter, paramedics and stuff, Dicky, the fire chief, included those in his request. Carter took them out
right.
and put it as a, override.
Right.
So if you add those, the 290 and the 133, it's not gonna total out, cause it was never included in Carter's version of the total budget number. the highway and the police were subtracted out, so if you add those back in to paper copy, it should match up with the electronic. But I don't think he ever added from the get-go, the 290 and the 133. And the snow and ice is just to cover that,
ridiculous.
them last couple storms. Like I said, I know this was, they were all set, and then that school thing, and then they changed the override real quick,
If I might, Mr. Chairman.
I believe.
Whoops, sorry about
Paul.
that.
Just so,
Oh, no.
What the heck? Turn the sound down.
I don't know how to do that. It's an on black.
All we can do is laugh.
yeah, I know. All right, for the overall budget, you had the number of the 8,220,298, and the new number of the 8,315,481. Is that what you were questioning there? If I'm correct, and I may be wrong, but the numbers seem to work, that's the $95,000 difference for the school override. Because the school override, as Jeff was referring to earlier, if I'm correct, it was like $140,000 to each
Somewhere around
party.
there.
And there was $45,000 from the overlay that Carter was gonna use to knock that number down, and the balance was gonna be $95,000 that had to be added to the budget for the school override. And that's where those knockouts came. So I think that's the increase from the 8,220, 298 to the 315,481, which is the $95,000.
Okay,
Do you see, I mean,
yeah, it doesn't show the school.
no,
In
no,
here.
no, because the school override is, if I'm, again, Jeff, anybody can correct me if I'm misinterpreting this, but, they didn't do a school override or a school portion. What they did is just what you've seen here. They broken down that, the 376 and that 95 that they added, so that brings us to that 470. And then they broke out that 470 with the 290 fire EMS, the 133, the 23,000 for police and so forth. They didn't use the school,
Okay.
as a, override, let's say, request.
Yeah.
That is where the money, that 95,000 that we need was generated, but.
And hopefully, if we can get together, like next year, Monty Tech's budget should come sooner, since they've made changes. They're gonna, as I understand it, they're gonna try to more closely follow the agreement and have it out, I think, like, either in December or January at the latest. So that's one that shouldn't be a surprise and have to, put it all together, make an assumption, which is always a bad thing to do.
Okay,
But they had to jump around and change that after this was produced, and then the
Understood.
school, after the electronic was done. I'm not making excuses for why they didn't
But you ought to have
upgrade the
right one
electronic,
on.
cause it would surely be easier to me to do the electronic than it is the paper, but
right. But out of all of the ones, all the versions that we have,
Right.
the various paper ones, or the latest version of the paper one we got, versus the two electronic files that we have, do we have any one of them that comes up to 8,220,298?
No,
Okay.
You went through this when Markle was here?
I would say that the initial probably did, before any of the,
Well, that would have been,
The copy that we have, the paper copy that I have here dated 4/9/18 has 8,220,231. There's still a difference of 60-something dollars on that copy. Now,
all right. To
that
go
was
to
at
the
$61
original-
that was gonna be,
Okay.
that,
To go to the original budget sheet,
it was
the
what,
summary sheet,
8,315?
page 10, the total number is 8,315,481.
Okay,
The updated one is 8,220,231. The
Okay.
article says 8,220,298.
pretty close.
So, I don't know, pick one, I guess. I don't know.
And you wonder why we have budget problems.
But it's 67 bucks out of,
Just say
Well,
that
that's
the
all right, it's just the
updated
same,
one
if you vote something,
Is
you
what?
vote
Is
it.
822, 8220?
8,220,231.
That's the
updated.
updated?
The
Yeah.
updated one,
Right,
right.
updated is,
The updated one is
8,231.
less
So
than
that, yeah,
the original.
that doesn't have the override in it.
Not all of them, some of them do.
None
some
of them
don't. I don't
like
know.
I said, the fire
Yeah,
EMS
right.
doesn't have none of the, you look in the budgeted sheets, it's not
Yeah.
in there, cause he
Right.
zeroed it out and put it all
Right.
on the override.
Yep.
As Jeff,
Along with the insurance and stuff.
as Jeff was explaining earlier, the original override was just for
It
the
was
ambulance fund.
370
Right.
something, yeah.
And then the school numbers came in, and they were higher than what we had originally budgeted, the 2.5% increase. And after all the negotiations, we finally know what that final number is from the school. But we just need one
A real
summary
one.
sheet that matches to what's in the
Right.
Article 21.
Yeah, so tell them come across.
Yeah.
At least it's 67 bucks or 68 and not 6 grand or
Right.
600.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
this
No,
will, this will drive a bookkeeper and an accountant crazy if they truly
Did their job.
has those two things, even the $61 difference.
You were in a bank, it'd keep you there till
A
hell froze
bank,
over.
a bank would make you count this to the nth degree if it was even 1 cent difference.
Drives you nuts.
All right. So if the override does not pass,
I don't even want to mention this to my
the
wife.
updated budget sheet
She keeps,
summary
she's a
sheet
bookkeeper and she's
should
done-
be the
she
budget
works
that
in a
will
bank
fly.
besides.
Correct.
even though the number is slightly different than the one in the article. Right?
Right, it would have to
Okay.
be, yeah. Because we've got no influence over what the school budget's gonna be now.
Right. Oh, that's clear.
So why in the hell did he send us a electronic budget that was supposed to be final?
I don't
That
know.
is awful.
And it does beg the question, which budget did the selectmen certify?
Yeah, that was a good question to ask.
Because when you go to borrow money, they ask for that vote that certifies your budget. They just do those things.
Yeah,
And
but
we're
do
gonna
they
have
check
to
'em?
borrow more money for the school. Usually they do, those people are pretty good with them before they give you money.
well, that's something to sleep on.
The electronic version on the TA website equals, you get that number handy again?
Yes,
83
8/3/15, 481.
481. Paper
Paper,
copy equal
8/220, 231.
220231.
The article
And article,
is 8,220,298.
298.
See, that's the original number that we had when we were doing this. And I just remembered because I was punching that number in so many times, I just remember 8,220, 298
Okay,
is just the number. Which, I don't know how we get here from there.
Well, at least this isn't the day before town meeting. Think of it that way.
Mm.
When Marco was here, the budget that the selectmen approved was not the one that went to town meeting. Nobody even figured that out except for Doug. It was bullshit. We had changes all the way up until the day before. It was awful. And Marco was
The
drinking.
night before,
Yeah,
I had the chairman call me up to take a look at the budget. It was changed again
I know.
from what the selectmen voted.
Oh, how many changes did we have that
At that
time? It was
meeting.
awful.
Now, just as a, question, some of you may have, let's say, just from experience, have an idea of where to go or what to do with this. But, you know, we've talked about the different versions being wrong. Well, it appears as though the one that is being presented to the public
Is wrong.
is wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
And you get this email
No.
saying it's a final version.
well, yeah, and that presents a problem.
And it's been out there, that's been on the website for what?
Couple weeks.
Over a month.
Yeah.
Has it been,
Yeah.
long?
Yeah,
Time
you
flies.
know, I mean, that just comes across as, you know,
Sloppy.
well, yeah, it's a problem for, let's say, you know, somebody could be reading that information and go to the town meeting and literally feel like they have all new stuff, or, you know, partially new information. Yeah, I don't know, just doesn't seem right. You know, the electronic copy should, you'd think would be the most up to date, because
Because
you'd
it's
think they'd
the-
have to update that,
It's the
In order
To
to get the paper
generate-
copies.
the paper
Paper,
copies.
right. You
Exactly.
had to print it from something.
I
You know,
Paper copies drive me
um,
nuts.
That's why I
Didn't
requested
save it.
electronic copies, because it should have been the most up-to-date, and that you could have been looking at that, and if you needed to take and end up making any changes or adding a thing to make changes, we could have done it on that sheet. Now, that electronic copy is wrong.
So,
That we have.
Yeah.
again, at least it's only, it's
It's
under a
May
hundred.
1st. It's May 1st.
It's under 100.
I
I
know,
mean-
but just the same. It's not right.
No, I know it should be exact, but like I said, I'd rather have it 67, 68 bucks off than 6 grand, 600 grand, 60
Depends
grand.
on what you look at,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, how do people know it ain't right? They have no way of knowing.
It just makes me question the rest of everything, all the rest of the numbers.
Yeah. So what do? Oh, we'll give you a big pile of money and you do what the hell ever you want with it.
Well, like I said, this is,
But which pile do you want? A, B, C, D, or E?
Well, that's like, I mean, allowing department heads to make the budget cuts, okay, to cut 15,000 here or whatever the department needed to cut.
That's a lot.
They have to rely on accurate information from the budget to actuals.
And if they don't make cuts early enough, they may end up short.
Well, we haven't been getting accurate information on the budget to actuals.
Now,
So,
right, if the wrong information is put in from the wrong budget information
yeah.
into the
and
BBA,
then you end up in
that's a big
trouble.
issue.
Right, and I don't have any problem with the department heads making the cuts and the determination on, you know, that's their job. But they need accurate
Is it too
information to
late?
make those decisions.
What?
I'm gonna go pick up all my signs.
He's gonna go
Nope.
pull his signs, no?
No, I'm gonna have too much fun.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you didn't even come up the house and you were on the corner. Shame on you. I wanted my girl to meet your boy.
So what now?
The other day, you put your sign up on Scott's Corner. You were
Scott's
right around the
Corner.
corner. Yeah, where the roads divide at Scott's Corner.
I just know how to drive around. I don't, I was
With
on a
that big
mission.
huge rock in the
Yeah.
middle of the road?
I don't want going up there slapping your girl around on you.
She just laid out and get her belly rubbed. Oh, well, this is just wonderful.
So, well,
Well, we'll surprise them, at least we noticed, you know?
All right,
Yes,
so
we
actually, we
didn't
did
do
do
our
Article 21.
yes, we did.
So, moving right along. I have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Where are we, Article 25?
I believe so.
Are we sure?
We're going to 25.
Yeah.
You know what, we're using free cash, and that's what we did for years that we shouldn't have done. That's too bad.
Right, we'll talk about that at the pre-town,
Hey,
whether
hey,
we
hey,
support it or
hey,
not.
We only went through, we had $1 million, we didn't spend a whole million yet.
You don't, tomorrow's
We
not
still got a
over.
couple months, so
Tomorrow's not over.
we still got a
Before-
couple months.
Before we go on to 25, there was a question at one time, a meeting or two back about the snow and ice being 7,000. To take it up that. Did that go into, and I think there was a question about that going into, because it goes into the general fund per se? Was that still an issue, or?
It was,
I can't remember who
no,
brought it up.
No, it was Julie, and it was about the dollar amount, that 616 instead of,
Right, and
And even.
it becomes 140,
Oh, okay.
141, 116.
Yeah.
And when you do that, if the selectmen vote to permanently increase it by that amount, you have this really weird amount. Usually
Yeah.
it's either by, 1,000
I
or
say you would
500.
just round it
It's-
up to,
Yeah,
Okay. I'm sorry, it's 25.
25, I believe there's still the original 25,000 from FY 18
yeah, 'cause no work
left
has-
in the account. So
no
now
work
you're gonna
has
take
been-
another 50,000 and put it in there?
It's an extraordinary workload.
A lot of work.
Wow.
They were supposed to, I drove by, but I didn't see any there. They were thinking, I think the steel was gonna arrive today. Okay, let's see, where can I find that?
So is there any question on 25?
Yeah, I
Health
just
Development Services.
not sure why it's 50,000, because we still have 25 left over from last year, because they haven't used any of it. And I thought it was supposed to be 25, 25, 25, not 25, 50. What's next year gonna be?
75.
Does it carry over, though, from,
Well, they got, there's, what, $131,000 or $150,000 that they got for the inspection services for the school, so you can pretty much figure that we're gonna spend that. So, it's 50,000, 25,000, so we got 75 left.
Right, but if they receive that money,
Where
you
did
should
they-
be able to take that money and put it back in. If free cash is certified.
And I forget how the way in which it was, when we get that, if it's up front or if it's on the, as it goes.
They've only used $6,000 out of that 25?
What page is that on? 4? Will? What page is that on? Is that on? 4?
Page 5.
Ask and you shall see.
I mean, how do they even judge something like that? I don't know how you do that.
Well, they have budgeted how much they need
Yeah.
in the school budget, right?
Yeah.
The building budget.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's like 36,000 for construction.
Still got
I mean,
$18,757.
As bad as you, for the construction of the building.
Does that carry over from this year to next?
Yes, because it's an article.
So I
If
don't
they
think
had
it,
put it in a budget, it wouldn't, it would go back to the general fund, because it's an article
Okay,
for the specific thing, it's just like the scholarship.
Yeah.
So they're an article, and it
Okay.
can be carried forward.
so this was an article from last year,
Yep.
expecting the
Right.
work to have been, okay.
right, and last year it was 25, this year it's 50.
And there's how much left over now? 18 as of March
18,757.
31st?
All right, Article 26.
So we haven't voted to ban,
Nope, this town is
So-
wide open.
so if we're wide open, we might as well tax it.
I mean, have it in place at least, so
Right.
if somebody decides to, you
Take
know what,
advantage.
they're right to find, I mean, it, you know,
Right.
Yeah, since it's wide open, the only way you're gonna get any money is to tax it.
Right,
so. I mean, we didn't come up, nobody came, the planning board or anybody didn't come up with like a bylaw to ban it, so, like some towns.
Is
have.
that the most that they can end up taxing? Is
Yes,
3%?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad.
well, the state gets their cut pretty soon,
Yeah,
whatever.
so, yeah, that's,
Probably get left out in the cold, because
all right, now here is the, local option meals tax.
You were talking about 27, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
The big question is, and I think we talked about this, is whether or not it will, the state has done a projection, but whether that projection is correct or not won't be known until
next year.
a year.
that's right, that's why the following article really doesn't make sense, but,
Nope. It's absolutely crazy.
So,
If the people say no to the meals tax,
yeah,
If they say no to Article 27, that would kill Article
Article
28, would
28.
it not?
right.
should.
All right, so no question on Article 27?
No, it is what it is.
And Article 28, it's,
It's another one of those, you spend it before you have it.
yeah, how do we,
Yeah,
well, no, it says appropriation by a transfer of said sum from certified free cash.
the first sentence
Oh,
says,
okay.
to see if the town contingent upon the adoption.
Yeah.
So this whole article depends on the adoption of the local meals tax.
but if it's passed,
If it's
they're gonna
passed,
take the money out of free cash
And hope that
to fund,
we make enough money to replace it. Good luck.
Just the 12,500 is a lease buy down, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
If we had Market Basket, or if we had that new restaurant, fine. I can't see it.
Yeah, in case you need a little bit more than that 42 grand, you get it out of free cash.
Gail's leave it, she ain't stupid.
that it on 28?
Okay, 29 is. The lease of a fire engine.
I have no questions.
The only, I was gonna say, for me, the only question I have goes back to the wording of the article where it says raise and appropriate. Because my understanding is that we're supposed to be using the, let's say, loan
Free-
funds, that have just, let's say, gone back to the general fund, so we're using already, let's say, tax levied money, but, or raised money, but not appropriated money, it would seem. I don't know.
So the question is on the wording of it?
Yeah, it's the question of, does that article actually allow them to increase the taxes to pay for this? Because it does say raise, which
It looks like they're gonna take it out of free cash.
states to increase cash levy or tax levy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we brought that up
We did,
the last time.
yeah.
Why is this a 2/3 vote?
Because it's debt,
Okay.
according to the DOR.
So does the wording indicate,
You're taking on payments, even though it's not a debt exclusion. Once in a while, that DOR comes through.
Yeah, it should have been a capital debt exclusion.
so, okay. So does the wording indicate that if it's approved,
Ow, that hurts.
that they would be able to raise this automatically each year?
Yeah, it will come out of the budget rather than a debt exclusion.
Okay.
Yeah, if it had been a debt exclusion, then you'd know how long it would be for.
If that comes out as a debt exclusion, that only raises the tax rate, along with the police station later on.
Right, that's why it's coming out of the operating budget. It's a similar thing that was done to pay off the money that was spent on 252. That was not done as a
Right.
debt exclusion. It was like, I don't know, like 140,000 a year or something out of the budget, out of the tax levy that wasn't available for other things. So,
Anything else on 29?
other than that, first sentence, right?
Mm.
Okay, Article 30. I forget who all was, I know me and Bob were there at the meeting. I think, I don't know, Paul, that was one, the infield groomer and, that was talked about extensively. Save a lot of course, now that we,
Fire training room, AC, what's that mean?
Their training room, they don't have an AC in their
Oh,
training room.
AC, literally
Right,
air
air
conditioning.
conditioning, I know, I read it the same way the first time I read it.
$3,500, what the hell kind of a air conditioning thing they're getting?
One put in by prevailing wage.
Well,
that's it.
I hope they fix the roof first. Sorry.
Well, that's gotta be one heck of a big size air conditioner.
Unless it's one of those new ones there,
Yeah.
the heat pump thing. Can be a heater and,
Pesky roof.
It could be a little.
No.
it can be a heater and a
State.
air conditioner at the same time.
Yeah.
Transfer from the overlay surplus, free cash and overlay surplus, alrighty.
Yes.
Spend that money.
Well,
All of it.
at least it's for capital items.
You're right, yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's not a reoccurring, it's actually
Right.
a smart purchase.
And the overlay surplus is what?
Set away so
Assessment.
much money to pay, like when you do abatements on your real estate taxes and this and that, they have an overlay amount to cover that.
Okay.
And as long as,
Those figures are right.
no, where the money comes from. But if you put so much in there, usually they put more than, what you, because you don't really know and it's done off, I believe the assessor, I wish she was here, I'd go get her so she could say this correctly, off the tax recap sheet. So it's one of those things where there's money in there and there's generally more than, what is needed, because they have a record to go by of historical, like people that come in for, and how much they abate and things. But,
Okay.
like if you're senior, you go in there, you're a vet, or you think, hey, my property ain't worth this much, I'm putting it, give me some.
Right,
So there's an amount of money to cover that.
okay. So, and the overlay is something that carries over from year to year? Or is it, gotta use it or lose it?
No, I think it carries, but I have to look at
I
the
think it
Community
does.
Morden Act, but I'm think even under that, it stays and it just goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't, my ignorance, that's all. I don't really have a
No,
question about that article.
Like I said, I can't, I wish Luann was in the office, because I'd get,
Okay. But we don't have any questions about the wording on this one. It's not raise and appropriate, so,
yeah, I mean, they're using one-time funds to do one-time
okay.
doing it good. And it's not an increase on the tax rate per se, so.
Okay.
I got a question on the F-150 Interceptor. You on the,
Mhm.
what is that? It's a truck?
Yep.
Yes, sir, to pick them up.
A truck for 35,000?
Yeah.
A brand new one?
It's supposedly a brand-new truck, yes. Yeah, but it's just a four-wheel drive truck, I believe. I don't know much more about it. It's an F-150.
Four-wheel drive trucks are going $40,000 to $50,000, I thought.
Yeah, and how much they got listed for that?
35.
I wish I had my book with me, because I think it's more than that. I do.
Oh, is that one of the ones that's gonna be supplemented by, the light department?
I think that's it.
I think it is.
Because I want to say, I think it's 55,000 for that vehicle.
And
Okay.
that's for,
That
You
the
know.
fire?
That sounds right.
Yeah,
I think the fire,
yeah.
yeah, I think let's see, it should say in the front here someplace. But I think you're right.
That sounds more like it.
Yeah.
I remember it's in here someplace.
Fire capital, buy down lease.
'Cause there's a page with all the.
So it's the light company, what, donation?
They don't like to call it a pilot, but it amounts to that.
But there's a sheet, where they say what they're putting in
This says the Templeton Light 43.5, that's the one. Just says awaits final review and action, it doesn't say for what.
there. Yeah, 43.5. Yeah, because they're doing a couple things.
Yeah.
Man,
You have to be on the advisory board before you run for selectman, you know that? Should be a requirement. And you'd know what you were
All
doing.
right, so I've got capital on page 6.
Yeah, it's 43.5, but what is that?
Go to, I think it goes to a couple of different things.
Things, yeah, there's
We're
a thing
still
in here
on,
someplace.
Yeah, there is.
But anyway,
30.
That's, I think that's you're funding a couple things.
Trying to see if that was part of the price was based on the light company's donation, whatever you wanna call it.
Okay.
We done with Article 30, or?
Anybody's got anything else on 30?
Nope.
Otherwise, we're homing in on the home stretch here,
Oh, boy, we're only right along, it's getting late.
so, late.
Oh, Jules has gotta get up in the morning.
Man, I'm going out. I'm gonna go out and hit it.
Well, you're a wild child anyway, I say.
I'm going home and hit the ball for the bear, okay? In the dark.
At least it's not raining or snowing.
Oh, he'll be right there too.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Yeah, I know.
He'll let me come in. He'll be on the bed sleeping. He'll let me come in, and then after about 5 minutes, he'll go to the door, ball in mouth.
We had a bunny in our yard, you
Oh,
should see
bear.
Chrissy.
I got a couple squirrels nesting and a couple, 3 rabbits.
Been after
but-
them too.
So, 30 we're good on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 31.
I have no questions.
I'm good.
Uh, The only thing is, I think we gotta ensure it's a 2/3 vote, because taking money out of the pajama fund. And that's supposed to be changed,
Yeah, we'll see.
and I think when Carter was here, he pointed that out.
That's
Well,
2/3
no,
vote?
you asked that
Julie pointed
question.
it out.
I did that.
You asked that
That
question when you were here, well, Carter was here, remote
Right, I was
participation.
remote, yeah.
And he said, yeah, that was supposed to be
Mhm.
2/3.
That's right, Article
All
30.
right, now the wonderful, third time up, getting ready for strike 3. Supplemental borrowing for the police station, another $1.5 million.
Oh,
think we-
why
I
not?
think we talked about that the other night, quite a,
Pennies,
Yeah, it's,
just
the
pennies.
thing that I found, because I went trying to see if there was an executed contract. And I know Bob had talked to the town administrator, we sent an email, and he can talk about that, but I'm looking at the request for services, and when you plagiarize, you gotta make sure you clean it up. Because it says the town of Templeton seeks services, a qualified owner's project manager, RFS, request for services, provide project, for design, development, construction renovation, and final closeout of the new Mendon Police Station. I don't know if Templeton's buying Mendon a police station or not.
Well, we're also fixing Pepperell's Town Hall, aren't we, or something like that?
Yeah,
Does anybody read the stuff?
Nope.
When I
Oh my
downloaded the
God.
management, letter, not the letter, but the whole management audit, Stoneham.
Yeah.
That's right.
oh yeah,
That's
when you,
right.
when you click on it to download it off the website, I was gonna email anybody and say, hey, do you get a tab coming up that says Stoneham?
Yeah, I did.
Say, Mr. Roselli, you know, change the file name, see? It's not just us not just the town of Templeton that makes these goofs, it's all, you know, that's why there's so many cities and towns in the state and everything is, it's a mess out there.
Yeah.
Just so that you have, the information that I got on this from the town administrator.
Yes.
I asked him about the, owner's project manager, the fact that we were hiring him as of, I believe, February 15th, and that we had no funds, and how we were gonna do that, and his response to me was that no tax monies
Yeah, no tax
were
levy.
were going to be spent on the owner's project manager at this time.
Well, why even do it then?
They were
Well, no,
required to by
They're gonna
law.
pay
Oh,
for
okay.
it. Yeah, it's anything over $1.5 million. It's a
You have to
public
have an
project, you
ATM.
have to have
Okay.
somebody overseeing it to try to keep things straight.
So what do you say to a guy, you're gonna
I think
hire
they're
you,
paying
maybe?
out of the gift.
Well, that's the potential that, it leaves that to be speculated that they're paying it out of the gift, and I believe his number was 125,000.
That's why I went looking for a
so.
contract,
Yeah.
for an executed OPM contract, and it was just the RFP up there.
It's a Mendon.
Mendon, yeah, you're looking
I'll
around.
call them up and, see, maybe,
They signed it.
maybe Templeton's is in Mendon, and this was Mendon's RFP, and they haven't closed yet. We hired, but it's Mendon's got it.
Right,
That's a possibility.
never know.
Anything can happen.
And we're just having fun here, folks, we gotta do something here.
Listen, it makes it
Okay.
tolerable.
So and the thing is to look at the motion on this
Yeah.
one. Watch the motion.
Well, I mean,
see.
the wording of the ballot question is vague and an open check, and
Well, that's
blank
that's
check
because
it
it's done as a debt exclusion instead. I think it should be, me personally, I think it should be a capital. And a capital
Right.
one would have the dollar amount in it.
right,
That's the
and the term,
requirement.
the length
Length would be in there,
of
those
the
two
borrowing.
things.
Yeah,
But when you do a debt exclusion, it's just, and I think they trust that, the town meeting, when they do that's when you have should have the length and the terms and all of that, and that's, but, hey, I said should, I didn't say would. But, that's the thing to watch for the motion.
so this may or may not depend on what happens at the ballot box, right?
Well, I'll
Depends
tell
on
you
how
something,
that
if
goes.
people
So-
say no, they better just pass it over.
So, well, yeah, that's what they have to do. So the Narragansett School District budget and Monty Tech, well, if you vote them down, then you have a choice. You either vote it up or down. You can't change any number.
Right,
Well, you can, and you shoot it back to you can propose a lower number and vote it and shoot, and then it goes back to the school, but it's the same thing. And then you either turn it down, yes or no, or you can propose a lower, it's non-binding, but you can suggest a lower number, send it to the school committee, and they'll come back and slap you and tell you, we sent you the number the first time. So, and we know how this would work out. So, that's 34, and then Article 35, 6, 37, 38, and 39 are citizens petitions.
my thing would be on 35, 36, and 37. The same thing I said at the annual town meeting last year, is that I don't believe that the entire town should be voting on it. Some people do not have town water.
Yep.
Those people that have town water, this is the impact on them.
Yep.
They're the ones that should be voting these articles either up or down.
However, since I drink coffee that's made with town water, I may prefer my coffee made with non-fluoridated water.
Yep, and
I know I do.
I would like to know there is
But-
fluoride in the water when I get a glass for my
The
child.
EPA says
And
if
if
it's
you
there.
send your children,
I have a
To
question
school.
before you
To public
close up, Mr.
schools.
Chairman. On
Um,
38 and 39.
Yeah,
On 38,
Get back
is that a legal warrant article?
that will probably be pointed out on town meeting floor when we have that guy with a doctor at the end of his name called jurisprudence lawyer. That'll be interesting, as always.
In 39, that has to do with smart meters, which are the electric meters from the electric company. How can the town be telling them to do that or not do that?
Well, it is the town of Templeton Municipal Light Department,
I understand that,
so.
but they're gonna take the position no matter what. If this
I-
gets voted, they're gonna take it and say no.
right, but at least you have
Well.
something to proceed with.
Yep.
If you
And
wanna
all
be
the
fried or
ratepayers
not,
could
it's up
take
to
them to
you.
court if they so wish.
That's right.
But,
Okay.
so I have some questions that I will be shipping out.
Tell them thank you very much for sending us an electronic copy that's junk.
Like I said, That actually, that surprises me a little bit. I would think that would have been the more
think
up to date, because it's the easiest. But that tells me that somebody, I think, I would have, I take from that, I deduct that somebody brought up the electronic copy, made the changes, printed out the number of copies, and didn't hit the save button.
Well,
Because if you hit the save button, it would automatically replace what was there. That's just, what I think
Oh,
will
let's
happen.
Or maybe it was a test and we passed.
That's it.
Yep, see, nobody thought we'd notice. There's one thing, Mr. Spring is an engineer, you can't slide anything past him, because he catches it every time. That's Mr. Markle. I can
Well,
tell you that.
unfortunately, my past experience is doing audits, quality audits as well as physical
Yeah,
audits
so they put
on finances is,
wrong person to mess with.
Let's see,
makes me
did
dig
we,
into these things.
Yep,
make sure we-
good for you, good for you.
up here.
The big thing about any audit is if the thing is not followed, you either follow the process or you don't follow the process. If you don't follow the process, that means you have to change the process to the correct way that things need to be done.
Yeah,
Elsewise, if the process is correct, then when you audit and it's not being done that way, then it's time to take it and end up changing.
so this,
Okay, with regards to the town bylaws, I made the copies
Can we do that
of the
Yeah, sure. Go
the
ahead.
ones, for like the advisory committee, so you can put them side by side when we look at that wording. I just thought it was easier,
yep,
that crossed out, see what you started with, just in case.
Yep.
Uh,
Good idea.
And also the one, with the back taxes when you have a year and,
Oh, the delinquent.
yeah,
Yeah.
and when you, for your, business license and stuff. And there was one other one, I think changing the town meeting date or something. So,
I thought it was the shall. Shall
Paul,
stay in the position.
do you have any comments? Any input, anything to say?
Well, I just want to, I know it's been a long night and everything, but I just sent a letter to Jeff, telling him I'm going to have to resign from the committee. The only thing that was unclear was I was going in thinking it would be effective as of after the annual town meeting. But my concern there was, what with the pending change in the bylaws and, not being able to appoint our own interim members, if that was something maybe I should consider doing before then. So I told Jeff I would leave it up, to him and the rest of the committee to determine when's the
I was gonna shackle him
best
to the
time?
table.
But the reason I'm having to resign is because, well, I've got the new job, and it's just causing too many conflicts. I can't get here, for the meetings on time. I can't get here reliably. I certainly can't get here by 6 o'clock, and there are some evenings that I can't get here at all. So between that and the fact that I'm pretty busy getting my house ready for sale this spring, I just don't have the focus and the time that really to commit to this that's necessary. And you get a lot of, some pretty important issues that the advisory is considering right now, and I just can't give it the, due
Sorry.
diligence, so.
it's been an experience, hasn't it?
It has, and that's what I also said in my letter to him. I have learned a lot in the short time I've been here, and I really do appreciate all the leadership and support from both chairmans, in my experience, Jeff and Will, and I know there's an awful lot of effort has gone into this by all the committee members here, and And I think there's been some significant progress made.
Yeah.
You know, again, in the brief time that I've been here, I've witnessed some significant
Yeah.
improvements, and,
It was nice that you volunteered.
yeah, well, it's been an experience. I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed working with
Maybe
the rest
wherever
of the
you
committee.
go.
Yeah.
The
You
next
never know.
absent person will be the clerk.
That's effective, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm saying by the end of the next annual town meeting. But if you feel that maybe I should do it sooner so that you can appoint an interim member.
That won't happen before then. And
Okay.
in fact, one of the things that we ran into the same thing, and I advised Gordon that it would probably be in the best interest all the way around is to end up doing it in July rather than to end up doing it at the actual annual town meeting or before, because of the pending things of end-of-the-year transfers, et cetera. And that way there, it gives the members an opportunity, if the bylaw does not change to a point. And oh, by the way, one of the things that I will be talking about is, and we have emails that they can end up verifying this, every time we have had a member resign and this board by bylaw can end up appointing, the first person that we have asked is who? The moderator.
Yep.
And he has come back in emails and stated he did not have anybody, and we had to go out and
People have come to us.
and people had come to us, and by having them come to us, and he had nobody, we appointed. If that does not happen and he does not have anybody, it's not a point upon this membership to go out and seek somebody. My concern there is that the vacancy will continue like it has in other committees and boards, where we don't fill. I mean, we have 4 or 5 or 6 members, and we actually physically went out and asked people about coming in. And over the years, that has happened time and time again. We have gone to the moderator, come back, and if he has nobody, or he has somebody, we have taken from the pool of people he has. I mean, it's that simple. That they can end up changing it, I think is gonna be detrimental overall.
The years that I look back, I've got it written down somewhere, I'll see if I can dig it out. They have reduced the number of people on this board because they couldn't keep members.
That's correct.
And probably this is the best board that we've had in many years. And if you don't have a good board of board of advisory committee, if you don't have a good committee, it hurts your town. Because there are things that we look at that nobody else is gonna see. We
Well,
spend a
it's-
lot of time doing it.
It's very interesting that the fact that since 2013, this board has pretty well maintained 6 or 7 members, whereby in previous years, before that, it had problems keeping even a quorum.
Yeah.
I mean, Charlie Perkins, when I first got on, was always calling this board defunct. And that was happening for a number of years. In researching that back and having to report that first year in 13, there was a lot of people, and they couldn't maintain this committee.
And then if they had committee members, they didn't know what they were doing, because they hadn't been here long enough. There's so much to learn. It's not an easy job.
No,
So,
Julie,
anyway, I really am feeling bad.
No.
You've been my neighbor for how long?
All right,
31 years.
31 years. Yep.
I have nothing this evening, so with that, I would, we've reached the end of the agenda, so it's that happy time or sad time, depending. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Right.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
no beer and wine for
Motion to
tomorrow?
adjourn, made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
So where are you working?
Meeting is adjourned.
In